Hello everybody and welcome to another Trolley Tuesday. Today we're going to be looking at car 122 of the McKinney Avenue Transit Authority. Now first I will divulge into how I built this car and how you too can have your own model of Rosie. And then afterwards I will show you the history of this car. So here we go. This car was built from an MTH bump and go trolley. Here is what the trolleys normally look like. The major modifications that I had to do this car, number one, were to cut the doors out of the vestibules for the cabs and then re-glue the fronts and the side steps back on after doing so. And then I added two panels on each end of the car, so that way you wouldn't have to look inside and see all the electronics. Of course, you can still see some right here, as there's no way of avoiding it. But on this end, I know you can look inside, and there they are. There's the little silhouettes on the inside, and the motor and everything else. It's actually kind of cool when you can see into them. But anyway, the bump and go mechanism still works on this car and everything. And so do all the lights. In fact, it looks really amazing with all the lights on running. Now, unfortunately, I have both of my trolley layouts put away at the moment, so I can't show you it running in this video. However, I can show you it running in a video that's already up on my channel. So I will make sure to link that down in the description. Now, since MTH is no longer in business, it's currently unknown if anyone has actually purchased the streetcar molds that MTH made. If you didn't know, they made three of them. They made these little 8-window brills. Then they had the semi-convertible brills, which are 11-window long cars. They're basically big versions of these. And then they had PCCs. In fact, I believe they're the only company that offered semi-scale PCC cars at affordable prices. Anyway, on with the history. Now, what makes 122 so special is she is the oldest continuously operated electric streetcar in the United States. During her entire service life, which is still ongoing, she has never once been retired or been pulled out of service. She has been continuously used ever since she was built by the G.J. Brill Company back in 1909, making her 112 years old currently at the time of this video. Now, when Rosie was built, she wasn't actually fully assembled at the shops. She was sent over to Oporto, Portugal, where she ran for over 85 years. She was sent over as a kit, as were many other Brills of the same type at that point in time. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, hang on a minute, aren't the trolleys over in Portugal narrow gauge? Yes, and those would be the Lisbon trolleys. They are a different type and a different gauge to the Porto, Portugal cars. They run on standard gauge. Anyway, after 85 years of service, she was then sold to the Yakima tramway system over in Washington State here in the U.S., where then her and a bunch of her brothers and sisters were leased out to different streetcar companies in the 80s. More prominently, 122, 189, and car 183 were sent down to San Francisco to celebrate the 110th anniversary of the cable cars. And they were painted in this paint scheme that you see right here. They were painted this sort of yellow and white, and their sponsors were the Kodak Camera Company, which is kind of funny. So yeah, they would have looked like this. I know I've featured car 189 before on my channel, so it's nice to have two of the same car on one video. Pretty cool, isn't it? Anyway, afterwards, after the 110th anniversary celebrations were over, car 189 was bought by the city of San Francisco. Car 183 went back up to Washington State, but car 122 was bought by the McKinney Avenue Transit Authority, so that way it could become its first permanent full-time car. And alongside car 369, a Melbourne W2, both her and that car opened up the McKinney Avenue Transit Authority line on 1989. They were the first cars in operation. Anyway, afterwards, the car was then sponsored by the Rosewood Property Company in Dallas and was given the name the Rosewood Property Company car. And this annoyed a lot of the motormen because it was a very long name to say. Then after that, it was sponsored by the Crescent Hotel. And in a contest, a new name was chosen for the car. And it was then called the Crescent Rose. And it carried this name for a bit, but still the motormen and operating crews didn't really like it. It was a long name to say and all that sort of stuff. And then in 2004, the car was completely stripped down and overhauled. It was stripped all the way down to the frames and a whole new car body was fabricated. And during this process, the car was given air brakes. Up until that time, it had used mechanical brakes while it was in service. Then it was sponsored by the Hunt family in Dallas. They're a very, very well-known family. And it was named the Caroline Rose Hunt car. And according to legend, one of the motormen took one look at her and then said, "Why don't we just call it Rosie?" And the name stuck. The paint scheme that I have Rosie currently painted in is in its 90s livery. It currently doesn't say McKinney Avenue Transit Authority up on the sides right here. I haven't been able to make a decal that honestly looks like that properly yet. But that's why it doesn't say Rosie on the front of the car. Within recent years, Rosie has actually garnered the title of the oldest continuously operated electric streetcar in the United States. The reason being, she has never been retired or pulled from service. In all her years, she's always been continuously operated, and she still has always been operating in regular revenue earning service. Not as a heritage car, not as a replica car, not as a museum piece, but as a regular running streetcar that you can still ride to this day. And if the weather's right, and if everything looks good, you'll often see Rosie pedaling about in Big D. And the best part, the ride is completely free. So if you want to go and see this car in real life, I urge you to do so. She's an absolute pleasure to ride on. She's got velvet seats, painted stained wood, and stained glass windows. Although, do be warned, the air conditioning is 20 windows up at 20 miles an hour. So you have that to look forward to on a hot summer day. Also, last Thursday was the McKinney Avenue Transit Authority's 32nd anniversary for their starting of operations back in 1989. And it was also one of my friends' birthdays over there. He's an operator on one of the trolleys. His name's Owens, and I bet he's probably watching this going, "James, you fool, how come you left out all this other information?" or something. I don't know. He just probably works there. I don't know. Or something. Well, anyway, happy belated birthday to you, you fool, and happy belated anniversary to Rosie and the McKinney Avenue Transit Authority. Thank you guys for watching this Trolley Tuesday, and I hope to see you in the next one.